But if God is so good as you represent him, and if he knows all that we need, and better far than we do ourselves, why should it be necessary to ask him for anything?
I answer, what if he knows prayer to be the thing we need first and most? What if the main object in God's idea of prayer be the supplying of our great, our endless need, the need of himself? What if the good of all our smaller and lower needs lies in this, that they help to drive us to God? Hunger may drive the runaway child home, and he may or may not be fed at once, but he needs his mother more than his dinner. Communion with God is the one need of the soul beyond all other need. Prayer is the beginning of that communion, and some need is the motive of that prayer. Our wants are for the sake of our coming into communion with God, our eternal need. If gratitude and love immediately followed the supply of our needs, if God our Savior was the one thought of our hearts, then it might be unnecessary that we should ask for anything we need. But seeing we take our supplies as a matter of course, feeling as if they came out of nothing, or from the earth, or our own thoughts, instead of out of a heart of love and a will which alone is force, it is needful that we should be made to feel some, at least, of our wants, that we may seek him who alone supplies all of them, and find his every gift a window to his heart of truth. So begins a communion, a talking with God, a coming to one with him, which is the sole end of prayer, yea, of existence itself in its infinite phases. We must ask that we may receive, but that we should receive what we ask in respect of our lower needs is not God's end in making us pray, for he could give us everything without that. To bring his child to his knee, God withholds that man may ask. In regard, however, to the high necessities of our nature, it is in order that he may be able to give that God requires us to ask. Requires by driving us to it, by shutting us up to prayer. For how can he give into the soul of a man what it needs, while that soul cannot receive it? The ripeness for receiving is the asking. The blossom cup of the soul to be filled with the heavenly dews is its prayer. When the soul is hungry for the light, for the truth, when its hunger has waked its higher energies, thoroughly roused the will, and brought the soul into its highest condition, that of action, its only fitness for receiving the things of God, that action is prayer. Then God can give. Then he can be as he would towards the man. For the glory of God is to give himself. We thank thee, Lord Christ, for by thy pain alone do we rise towards the knowledge of this glory of thy Father and our Father. And even in regard to lower things, what it may be altogether unfit to do for a man who does not recognize the source of his life, it may be in the highest sense fit to grant him when he comes to that source to ask for it. Even in the case of some individual desire of one who, in the main, recognizes the Father, it may be well to give him asking, whom, not asking, it would not benefit. For the real good of every gift, it is essential, first, that the giver be in the gift, as God always is, for he is love. And next, that the receiver know and receive the giver in the gift. Every gift of God is but a harbinger of his greatest and only sufficing gift, that of himself. No gift unrecognized as coming from God is at its own best. Therefore, many things that God would gladly give us, things even that we need because we are, must wait until we ask for them, that we may know whence they come. When in all gifts we find him, then in him we shall find all things. Sometimes to one praying will come the feeling, rather than question, were it not better to abstain? If this thing be good, will he not give it to me? Would he not be better pleased if I left it altogether to him? It comes, I think, of a lack of faith and childlikeness, taking form, perhaps, in a fear lest, asking what was not good, the prayer should be granted. Such a thought has no place with St. Paul. He says, "Casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. In everything making your request known unto him." It may even come of ambition after spiritual distinction. In every request, heart and soul and mind ought to supply the low accompaniment, "Thy will be done." But the making of any request brings us near to him, into communion with our life. Does it not also help us to think of him in all our affairs, and learn in everything to give thanks? Anything large enough for a wish to light upon is large enough to hang a prayer upon. The thought of him to whom that prayer goes will purify and correct the desire. To say, "Father, I should like this or that," would be enough at once, if the wish were bad, to make us know it and turn from it. Such prayer about things must of necessity help to bring the mind into true and simple relation with him, to make us remember his will, even when we do not see what that will is. Surely it is better and more trusting to tell him all without fear or anxiety. Was it not thus the Lord carried himself towards his Father when he said, "If it be possible, let this cup pass from me"? But there was something he cared for more than his own fear, his Father's will. "Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." There is no apprehension that God might be displeased with him for saying what he would like, and not leaving it all to his Father. Neither did he regard his Father's plans as necessarily so fixed that they could not be altered to his prayer. The true son faith is that which comes with boldness, fearless of the Father doing anything but what is right, fatherly, patient, and full of loving kindness. We must not think to please him by any asceticism, even of the spirit. We must speak straight out to him. The true child will not fear, but lay bare his wishes to the perfect Father. The Father may will otherwise, but his grace will be enough for the child. There could be no riches but for need. God himself is made rich by man's necessity. By that he is rich to give. Through that we are rich by receiving. As to any notion of prevailing by entreaty over an unwilling God, that is heathenish, and belongs to such as think him a hard master, or one like the unjust judge. What so quenching to prayer as the notion of unwillingness in the ear that hears? And when prayer is dull, what makes it flow like the thought that God is waiting to give, wants to give us everything? Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. We shall be refused our prayer, if that be better. But what is good, our Father will give us with divine good will. The Lord spoke his parable to the end that they ought always to pray and not to faint.